If weight loss helped us love ourselves, I should have loved myself years ago. I tried 25 different diets, programs, and fixes, each one promising that a smaller body would finally mean happier, more confident, and feeling more myself. But every time the weight changed, my relationship with myself didn't. Because you can't build self love on top of self rejection. And that's ultimately how we're taught to view our bodies, to reject the version they are until they become a version that we can accept. So if you've ever looked in the mirror and thought, when I lose weight, then I'll finally feel good. I get you. I lived inside that hope for years. And today I want to show you what actually opened the door to real self-love and why it had nothing to do with changing my body. If you're new here, I'm Kristina Bruce, a body peace and self-trust coach, and I help women stop fighting their bodies and finally feel at home in them without the dieting, the control, or the perfectionism. So if you've been on this exhausting roller coaster of weight loss and self-criticism, you're going to want to listen to this episode until the end. So we're taught that happiness lives on the other side of weight loss. I mean, how many before and after photos do we see? Of course, it's always in the marketing material for weight loss companies. You might have even done it yourself. I remember back in the day, I used to do the Beachbody workouts, and this was at a time when they actually physically mailed you a booklet that you could take a photo of yourself, cut it out, and then paste your before and your after into the booklet. And I did that. And I loved seeing the change in my body. I felt so good about myself. I'm like, yes, like I did it. Now I'm good enough. Look at how much, better my body looks. And here's the thing, that is really addictive to have that feeling. You feel really good about yourself, and you do. I mean, you just did this workout. You've been building up muscle in your body. You're probably feeling lighter. But here's the thing. Within 2 to 5 years of doing any protocol diet or weight loss plan, 80% of people will regain the weight that they lost, and often, and then some. And at least 50% will return to their individual baseline weight. Okay. Now I'm going to save this for another episode as to why that happens physiologically, because hint, it's not because you don't have the willpower or you somehow failed, although that is totally how we're taught to see this. I mean, Biggest Loser, anyone, that brings back some memories. So what usually ends up happening is that after the weight is regained, we just tell ourselves, well, that wasn't the right diet. I just need another one. This isn't the one that was right for me. And I mean, there is no shortage of diets out there. There's probably thousands. And so over the course of my life, I tried probably about 25 different ways to lose weight. And I remember my very first attempt was actually accompanying my mom to Weight Watchers meetings. A little side note about this, talking about these meetings and these sort of group formats for weight loss, that actually kind of fulfills a different need that many of us have. Because when you're in a group environment, all working towards the same thing, there's a sense of camaraderie. You feel like you're in it together. And then there's also this audience that gets to witness your transformation. So they get to celebrate you. I mean, I remember at these meetings, you would go up to the front of the room and step on a scale to be weighed. Now, oh, great, celebrate. Everybody claps if you lost the weight, but what happens if you gain? There's a sense of shame or like I'm a failure or I did something wrong. And then, of course, in front of everybody. And now they use that as a way, well, that's okay. We're here to support you. We just want to hold you accountable. And so there's a real need that gets filled when you're in these community type environments. And this can also be the case too for gyms. When you're all working towards the same goal, you get this sense of, now I'm getting this external validation and love and support from other people. I just don't have to do it alone. So I just kind of wanted to park that on a little side note about why it can be so compelling to continue in these environments where you're in weight loss. But the thing is that, I mean, how many diets have you tried? Whether it's in a community or on your own, I could count so many numbers of them, whether it's actually a diet, if it's a cleanse, if it was something simple like calorie counting or a workout program, or these little crazy ones in the 80s and 90s, the cabbage soup diet or the banana diet. I mean, there's so many. And each one kind of creates this illusion that this is going to be the one that I'm finally going to lose the weight, feel good, and ultimately love myself. Because isn't that what we're really seeking at the end of this? Is this feeling of I'm good enough. Now, some of you may be thinking, well, this is for my health. That is another episode. So I just want you to park aside the health piece because what I'm really focusing on this episode is the self-love. But ultimately, what these diets are really telling us is that the body that you're in now is not worthy of that there's something wrong with it, that it's your failure side and you need to change it or control it or manage it in order to be acceptable. So we end up having this rejection of our body as it is in order to have the body that we can love. So what is this actually based on? Conditional love. So many of us grow up experiencing conditional love. And this is not to blame our parents or our family. I mean, this is our culture. This is our collective consciousness has been based in conditional love. And what we're all really actually yearning for at the deepest level is unconditional love. But many of us haven't experienced that. And we've certainly been taught that we're not supposed to experience that, particularly when it comes to our bodies. So when you think about it, I mean, where were the times in your life that you really just wanted to be loved and accepted for who you were, but instead you got conditional love? And that means, I will approve of you. I will be nice to you. I will give you what you want when you behave a certain way, when you do the thing you want. Again, this is not to put any blame on our parents because this isn't the culture. Everybody's always doing their best. But as children, that's what we learn. What we learn is something's wrong with me. And for many of you, it may have even been particularly around your body. It might have been directly about your body. You learned that there was a good way to present yourself, a good way to be or to look. And if you weren't that, you got the judgment from your parents. You may have even been punished for it in different ways. So it makes sense that we have actually turned that onto ourselves. So we've turned it onto our body saying, you know what, body, you're not good enough until you lose weight, until you look different, until you perform differently. I really love this quote from Nayyirah Waheed from one of her poems. It says, "And I said to my body softly, I want to be your friend. And it took a long breath and replied, I've been waiting my whole life for this." Now, I don't know how it feels for you when you hear that. I get goosebumps and just this real sense of, gosh, yes, that's what I really want. And yet, though, we have been taught really innocently, but a deep misunderstanding that the way that we can finally feel self-love is when we look a certain way, is when we lose the weight. And I want to tell you that that is not the case, that you actually can start to learn to give yourself that unconditional self-love now, particularly to your body. And I know that that can feel really hard and it might even feel impossible. You might say, yeah, no, can't do it. Sorry. That's okay. But just because that's what the thoughts are saying doesn't mean that it's not possible. I'm going to tell you that it is. It's just we have these deep beliefs, often trauma responses that come up that fuel this idea that says it's not possible for me to love myself as I am. And I want to look into what's coming up around that. So as I mentioned, a lot of these beliefs and these ideas of we need our body to be a certain way in order to be okay comes from this very deep survival instinct that we have. It gets tied into, I learned that in different ways, shapes, or forms, or I at least interpreted it. It might not even been direct that we got this messaging from our parents, but I certainly interpreted it that I'm not good enough. Even if our parents told us you're not good enough, that doesn't mean that they were right. or that they were seeing things correctly. It just means that's, what they had believed, but we certainly took it on then to be true. So there is this fear that it's actually not safe for me to allow my body to be as it is. There can be this real visceral response that says, not only is it not okay for me to love myself as I am or to give love to my body as it is, you may have just learned that as an idea or a belief, but it can feel unsafe too. Because they'll say, well, no, I have to change. I have to be different or else I'm not going to get that love. So I find this shows up a lot for people with this fear of laziness. That's really tied into the idea of quote unquote letting go of dieting and trying to control your body. It's really common with the clients that I work with. It's a core belief of I don't want to be seen as lazy. Now, this isn't the culture too, right? There's a lot of cultures that really value productivity and working hard. Again, this is in the collective consciousness, so it's not a surprise that we're afraid to let go of this because what? We're going to be judged, right? And it's this idea of that I'm not going to get the love and approval from other people. Well, I just want to plant a seed here and say that approval from other people, that's not actually where you get love. That love coming at you from other people actually can either be received or rejected by you. How many times has somebody paid you a compliment and you rejected it because of these beliefs that are in the psyche and in this, maybe even in the subconscious, you weren't able to receive it. So real love, that feeling of love doesn't actually come from other people approving you. It actually comes from within. So I just want to put that there right now to say that it doesn't matter if people are judging you or what they think of you. What matters the most is if you're judging yourself or what you're thinking about yourself. So really, it's always to look within. Let's go back to this idea of laziness. If you're afraid to be perceived as lazy, could it be that you're afraid to rest? You're afraid to take time for yourself? There's all these different ways that we then can't do things that actually would support us. What's the cost if you can't let yourself rest? What's the cost if you're always working yourself to the bone? You just ask yourself this, burnout, stress, depletion, sickness. So it's these ideas and these beliefs that come up when we start to ponder the idea of letting go of controlling our bodies that can actually keep us back in this cycle. But we want to look at what beliefs do I have right now that prevent me from showing love to myself, that prevent me from caring for myself. Clearly, obviously, one of the big ones is this idea that I need to change my appearance. I need to manage, fix, control my weight. I need to get rid of the fine lines and wrinkles on my face. I need to cover up the gray hairs. But that's not really what gives you love. And what is the cost of doing all these things? What is the cost when you just can't let yourself be as you are? And that's something to explore for yourself. But knowing that the feeling of love comes from within. If somebody says something negative to you about yourself and it feels really bad, all that's actually showing you is that you agree with them in some way. You have bought into that idea and that's what's coming up. So it's not actually their opinion or their criticism. It's saying, oh, I believe them. I've taken it on, or that lives within me. This is 100% internal work. And that's actually really good because it means it's within your control. Because we can't control what other people say, think, or believe about us. We're trying to, and sometimes it can work, but it doesn't always, and it's exhausting, isn't it? The love and the unconditional love has to come from within you. I want to just also say that we need to realize that the way that we've gone about trying to receive love, meet other people's expectations makes total sense. Like that was the survival strategy. Particularly when we're children, we needed the approval of our caregivers in order to survive. We needed the love from them. We needed to know that they were going to take care of us because we couldn't do it ourselves. So these coping mechanisms, these survival strategies, particularly as it comes to our body, it's not a mistake. That was a very real, understandable survival strategy. But you don't need to keep abiding by the conditional love rules anymore that you learned or had used in the past. What we really want to do then, this is all about making this shift from fear into love. Love is that more open state. It's more aligned, it's more expansive, it's more free. And that's what we all want. I mean, we're all yearning to feel more love. It's just we've been taught we have to do things or be different in order to get it. And certainly when it comes to our bodies, we've been told we need to manage it, control it, make it different. What is a more loving state when it comes to relating to yourself and your body? It could look like listening more, being present with it, giving comfort, resting, nourishing it, moving it in a way that feels supportive rather than punishing, turning towards it with love instead of rejection, looking at the ways that we say you can only love your body if, and saying, what if I could just love my body as it is right now? What would it look like to give myself love? And this could be a journal prompt for you. You may actually really need to take some time with this. If you've been so used to viewing and treating your body as bad, as the enemy, as wrong, it may seem totally foreign to think of how I might actually love it. So this could take some quiet time and reflection. But let's look at the power of loving your body, because this isn't just to feel emotionally good. This actually has a very real benefit on our health, on our overall sense of well-being. So we've been doing it the other way. And I can't say that we have overall a very healthy society. Okay, I think you'd probably agree with that, right? We have a lot of sickness in our society. Well, that would make sense if we're taught to reject our bodies. So what would happen now if we turn to love? Love is not just this nicety. It's not fluff. It's an energy. At the core essence of ourselves and our being, we are energy. If you were to take a microscope and go all the way down, it would be vibration. It would be energy. That is what we are made of. We appear solid. We can touch our bodies, but actually it's just really condensed energy. So vibrations and different types of vibrations can be either coherent or incoherent. I'm thinking of music of a band, that's playing all out of sync, and it sounds really chaotic and disorganized versus how it sounds when everybody's playing together and in harmony, and it's this really beautiful, organized, coherent piece of music. That happens within ourselves too. And on an energetic level, the frequency of that is love or fear. Love is a very coherent, harmonic, organized energy. The fear, the survival mode can be tense and chaotic. And let me just say, survival mode is necessary when we're in actual, real physical danger in the moment, but it's never meant for us to be living in on a daily basis. And that's what we do, where most of us are living in a survival state most of the time. So we're in this incoherent, chaotic, disorganized, energetic state. And over the long haul, that has negative implications on our health and well-being. An example of this is that experiment that was done a while back by Masaru Emoto, who was a Japanese researcher, and it was the water experiment. You might have heard of it, where they had distilled water and they would label it love, thank you, gratitude, really positive, loving word. And then they would label jars of water with words like, I hate you, fear, danger. And over time, they would, with a microscope, would look at the structure of the water molecules and found that the ones that had loving words were very organized. I think they froze it, so it turned into ice crystals, and it was these beautiful little ice crystal shapes. And the ones that had the words of I hate you, fear, all of the negative stuff were disorganized and chaotic and not in harmony. So that really shows that when we focus on softening and starting to remove the conditions of what is acceptable or unacceptable for our bodies and ourselves and turn more to a loving energy, that's going to be really good for the energy in our body, which then affects the cells and all the systems of our body and also our emotional well-being. If we want to look at what is healing elixir, it's the energy of love. That is what harmonizes and makes everything operate well. What if what your body really needs instead of the diets, the weight loss, the harder workouts is just more love? What if that's what it needs? And the thing is that our bodies are really intelligent. So it's not a surprise that what often happens for people who have been spending their whole lives rejecting their body and focus on weight loss, when they let go of that completely and they instead focus on self-love and nurturing themselves, many people, if they were in a really large body, will find their body will naturally lose weight. So it's not to say that that's always going to happen or that it's bad or wrong or, better or worse, but it's to say that oftentimes the very thing that we're putting so much energy into when we're doing it from that negative, gripping, rejecting perspective can just keep it there because the body can't organize itself in a way to then feel safe enough to just release what doesn't need to be there. So for those who are thinking, yes, but I still would really like to lose some weight. Well, again, you have to look at the deeper part of, are you making it a requirement for you to feel okay about yourself? That needs to be let go of because the love has to happen first. So the main goal should be, how can I start to love myself as I am now? And that, is the deeper work. That is why I offer coaching support, because we want to be able to go deeper to the root of it, because what we're all really looking for is love. And you do deserve to give yourself unconditional love now. So if this episode landed for you and you're ready to start loving your body more unconditionally, I want to encourage you to watch my free Body Peace video series. I walk you through the foundations that I share with my clients that will help you stop feeling like you need to control or fix your body in order to feel loved. It's really powerful. It's really deep. So head to the description below for the link to join the Body Peace video series for free. Thank you so much for being here. I hope that this episode brought you into a place of being open to loving yourself more just as you are. I'll see you in the next episode.